Good evening, everyone. My name is Nathan Medinski. I am a biologist with the Ministry of Environment in the Environmental Monitoring and Analysis branch within the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy. And I'll be talking today about a few tools and methods that the ministry uses to assess trends in water quality and aquatic health with a focus on the Elk Valley. So two of the programs that I'll focus on in this presentation are talking about the Canada-BC Water Quality Monitoring Program as well as the BC Biomonitoring Program. Both of these programs are done in partnership with Environment and Climate Change Canada, and they have complementary objectives of assessing long-term trends in aquatic health. So currently there's 51 discrete water quality monitoring stations. So discrete basically means there's a one-time sample collected either biweekly or monthly, and an individual actually goes out there and collects those samples. And there's 3 continuous water quality stations as well, which are basically buoys that are placed in different rivers. So there's one in the Fraser River. Those continuously monitor water quality over a 24-hour period. And there's also over 400 biomonitoring locations across the province. In addition to that, there is 7 regional cabin reference models in BC. The most relevant here would be the Columbia Basin model, which includes the Elk River watershed. So first off, I'll focus on the Canada-BC Water Quality Monitoring Program. So looking at this from kind of a local Elk Valley scale, there's 2 of these Canada-BC stations located on the Elk River, which include the Elk River below Sparwood Station and also the Elk River above Highway 93 Station. And there's pictures of what both those stations look like on the left-hand side of the slide. The diagram on the right shows kind of a general sampling strategy, so the parameters that are collected from each station, and also the general sampling strategy, which is in place for both stations. Samples are collected every 2 weeks at each station, and they're analyzed by an independent laboratory for physical, biological, and chemical parameters. There's also quality assurance control programs in place to ensure that the data is acceptable for future trend analysis and reporting. And about 70% of these stations across the province are sampled by external collectors. I'm not sure if so both Elk Valley stations are actually sampled by an external collector, and I don't know if that individual is in the room right now. If you are, please raise your hand. No, it doesn't look like it. So 70% are sampled by external collectors that are trained and contracted by the ministry, and the remaining 30 are sampled by staff from either Environment Canada, the Ministry of Environment, or Water Survey of Canada staff. Oh, good, I'm still on the right slide. So a bit more info. So the Elk Valley below Sparwood Station is sampled biweekly, and that's been sampled from 2002 to present. And the Elk Valley above Highway 93 Station has been sampled also biweekly, but from 1984 to present. So pretty long-term data sets available for both stations. So this is an example of one of the spatial tools that the ministry has available for public use and access. So this is the Canada-BC Water Quality Monitoring Interactive Map. And this is a publicly available website that can be accessed by the link. And so as part of this website, there's various tabs. So one of the tab in the middle is the Water Quality Trends tab. That's probably the most interesting tab on this website. It provides links where you can view full detailed reports for trends that have been assessed to date, as well as different graphs of water quality parameters that have been found to show either significant increasing or decreasing trends over time. What was I going to say? So reporting on the data includes annual updates of a water quality index, which uses the 3 most recent years of data, as well as a statistical trend analysis report that requires 10 years of data to run statistical models. And so the 2014 to 2015 trends are available, so you can access any of those through this detailed trend report link. And currently, Environment Canada is finalizing 2004 to 2019 trend analysis because the trends are updated every 5 years. So here's an example of one parameter. So in this case, specific conductance, which is just basically a measure of how electrical signals can be transported through the water based on the ionic content of the water at the time. and it's been assessed for long-term trends at the Elk River below Sparwood Station. So the data is averaged by month, so the biweekly collected Elk River data would use the average of these 2 data points, so within every year there's 12 data points, 1 per month. And in this example, we can see that there is an increasing trend between 2005 and 2014 of about 2.5 microsiemens per centimeter per year, which is the measure of specific conductance. And that is shown, oh good, you can actually see it on my laptop. This is too blurry to see, so I'm glad you can see it on this one. So yeah, you can actually see the trends in the upper left-hand corner of the plots. And if there are BC water quality guidelines or objectives for the water body that we're looking at, it would show up in here, but for this parameter there isn't, so not able to see. And then yeah, you can click on the link and see there are several other parameters that were assessed for either increasing or decreasing trends. Those are all publicly available. So complementary to the Canada-BC Water Quality Monitoring Program is the BC Biomonitoring Program. This is an important program because water samples alone may not always tell us the whole story about how different stressors, so things like changes in discharge or stream flow, changes to habitat conditions, chemicals that may be added to the water, or things like invasive species could interact and impact aquatic organisms. So this program follows a cabin approach, which includes a standardized kicknet sample, collecting water quality samples, and measuring physical stream habitat characteristics at each site. And for those of you who don't maybe know what a benthic invertebrate is, it's just a small stream bed dwelling animal with no vertebrae. So things like, for the fisher folk in the room, mayflies and stoneflies, caddisflies, which I've shown in this diagram, so little monsters of the river bottom, as well as things like true flies, so chironomids and crane flies and those types of larvae. And so why do we use benthic invertebrates? Why not use something like a fish that might be more economically or socially valued? I guess there's several reasons. So benthic invertebrate communities are good indicators of water quality, and they're commonly used for a variety of reasons. So they're sedentary, which means they don't move very much. Some species are known to be quite sensitive to environmental change, and they show site-specific impacts, so they're good indicators of site-specific problems. They can live for several years, so they reflect changes to the upstream watershed over a longer period of time. Healthy invertebrate communities are often diverse, so a lack of diversity would indicate there could be some local or cumulative impacts to the watershed. They're ubiquitous, and they can be found in all different freshwater ecosystem types. They are an important part of the food webs, and they perform a variety of important ecological functions, including feeding fish. Because they're commonly used as indicators of aquatic health, there's nationally standardized protocols for sampling and also statistical analysis, one of which is called the reference condition approach, or RCA, which I will now discuss. So this is an example of the reference condition approach. This is how we can understand how invertebrate communities at one site are potentially impacted compared to other reference sites. So these models are used in the cabin to compare the structure of these benthic communities, and they can indicate the level of impairment at what's known as a test site, so basically an impacted site, when compared to a group of similar reference or unimpacted sites. So the location of the test site in this figure, which is here, so this is from an analysis I actually did in the Nanaimo area, so not related to the Elk River at all, but just an example, I guess. So the location of this test site on this figure is calculated using multivariate statistical analysis, and it shows how divergent the test site is from the grouping of unimpacted reference sites. So in this example, we would classify this site as mildly divergent from reference, which indicates that generally it's in relatively not bad condition. But if sites fall within the divergent or highly divergent ellipses, so the yellow or the red, it could indicate that management actions or potentially habitat restoration actions could be needed to restore the communities to what we would expect from a reference site. So another branch in the ministry is the Southeast Coal Mining Team, which I do not work with, but they're an adjacent branch to us. And they focus specifically on the Elk River watershed. So they have 4 dedicated professional biologists who review and provide oversight on mine permittee monitoring, which includes a lot of different type of monitoring that these folks do. They sample about 132 surface water quality sites. There's 87 benthic invertebrate tissue selenium sites, 86 benthic community sites. They sample about 131 groundwater wells a year, as well as perform about 260 toxicity tests annually. And all of that sampling and monitoring that I just mentioned, as in relation to the Southeast Coal Mining Team, is also publicly available on another dashboard. So this is called the Elk Valley Water Quality Dashboard. So this is, again, publicly available. It's a publicly available website. And it can be accessed through the link that I won't even try to point to this time so I don't screw it up again. But on this website, it contains so all the BC surface water quality monitoring locations, so every site across the network, across the province. They also have more Elk Valley specific water quality trends and compliance data that you can look into, and also aquatic health monitoring data on one of the other tabs. And that would include the benthic community and the tissue chemistry work. So yeah, so that's pretty much the end. So these are a bunch of links that can be used to access this publicly available data, and spatial tools that I've mentioned in this presentation. I would imagine that this could probably be passed around to folks who are interested after. There's a few other ones like the hydrometric station network that I didn't include in the presentation that are also available. So basically the summary is that there are a lot of publicly available tools and data available, and hopefully this presentation has brought a few of them to your awareness, and hopefully you will access them and use the data and information in a way that benefits your needs. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks.